Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into, well, the really intense world of elite ice hockey. It's a sport famous for being tough, super physical,
Absolutely. Grueling.
but underneath that surface, there's this surprising story about medication use, specifically among male elite players over in Norway, and that's our focus today.
And what makes this deep dive interesting, I think, is the source material. It's a unique study, really. It uses a mixed method approach, meaning it combines the hard data, numbers from doping control forms with personal insights. They actually talk to the athletes in focus groups, so you get both sides.
Okay, got it. So data and the human experience.
Exactly. It gives a much richer picture.
So our mission here is to unpack why this medication use is happening, look at maybe the cultural things going on in the sport, and figure out what it all means, for the athlete's health and for anti-doping too.
Yeah, the bigger picture implications.
Consider this your shortcut to getting up to speed on a really fascinating, maybe hidden part of pro sports. Okay, so let's dig in. You mentioned data. The study started with quantitative stuff, right? Looking at those doping control forms from Anti-Doping Norway between 2015 and 2019.
That's right.
What did those numbers actually show? Just like how much medication are we talking about?
Well, the figures were quite striking, actually. They looked at 177 forms from these national level male players, and 68%, clear majority, listed at least one medication.
68%.
Yeah, and some forms, they listed up to 9 different meds.
9 on one form.
9 on one form. So if you average it out across everyone, it's about 1.29 medications per form. But if you only count the forms where something was declared, that number jumps up. It's closer to 1.88 medications per form on average.
Okay, that's definitely significant.
Yeah.
So what kinds of medications were popping up most often? Did any categories jump out?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The top 3 groups were all about basically pain relief and sleep. So 22% listed other analgesics and antipyretics. That's your general pain and fever reducers. Then 20% for NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories.
Like ibuprofen.
Exactly, like ibuprofen, naproxen, that kind of thing. And then 19% listed hypnotics and sedatives, specifically benzodiazepine-related drugs. Sleeping pills, essentially.
Okay, so pain and sleep. That immediately flags those as the big areas, doesn't it?
Precisely. Points right towards pain management and sleep issues being major factors here.
So this is where it gets really interesting, that we move from the numbers, the what, to the why, the athlete's own experiences.
Yeah.
The study found this strong link between dealing with pain and what they call the macho culture in hockey.
Yes, very much so.
What does that actually look like on the ice, in the locker room?
Well, the interviews really painted a picture of this pervasive tough guy attitude. You had athletes saying things, direct quotes like, "You always take painkillers before you stop playing." Or this idea that it's not dangerous to feel a little pain. Just push through it. One guy even admitted, he probably shouldn't be playing with all his injuries.
But he says anyway.
But he plays anyway because, and this is his quote, "You don't want to lose your position on the team." There's that pressure. Another athlete, they called him A10, said even when he was young, it was almost tough to play injured, something you could kind of brag about to your teammates.
So it's not just treating pain, it's almost using the painkillers to enable playing through injury. It's a tool to stay on the team.
That's exactly how it came across. Analgesics were explicitly used to manage pain and injuries so they could, quote, get ready to compete.
How do they describe using them? Like before games, after?
All of the above, really. Before, during, after matches, especially during intense times like the playoffs, just to, quote, get through the match. Another athlete, A24, talked about the mechanical impact injuries, just the sheer physical toll and needing quick solutions to be ready for the very next game.
You mentioned quick solutions. I also saw something about injections, going beyond just pills.
Yes, that came up too, and it sort of raises the stakes, doesn't it? We're talking about local anesthetics given by injection, especially during playoffs, apparently, to deal with serious pain, things like fractures or getting hit hard by a puck.
Sort of like numbing the area just to play.
Pretty much. Athlete A17 said it's quite common for players to get a syringe in the shoulder or in the legs just to play. They do it before the match or during breaks, to make sure it works when they need it. And importantly, he added, it's still being done nowadays. It's not some old practice.
And what specific drugs were they talking about? You mentioned hockey candy earlier. That sounds, disturbingly casual.
It does, doesn't it? It refers to diclofenac, an NSAID, and yeah, its use is apparently still widespread. But they also mention common stuff, paracetamol, ibuprofen, and some prescription combination meds like esomeprazole with naproxen.
Wow.
And even codeine came up. Though one player, A9, did say it wasn't, easily accessible, but you could get it through a specific team doctor, perhaps.
And the risks here, masking pain like that long term.
Yeah, the medical perspective is clear. Masking pain can obviously make the underlying injury worse. And then there's the addiction risk, especially with stronger stuff like tramadol or codeine. Athlete A6 actually highlighted this, the risk if you're using them constantly, say, leading up to surgery.
Okay, so pain management is a huge piece.
Yeah.
But you mentioned sleep meds, too, hypnotics. The study found that was a big deal as well.
Oh, definitely. In fact, one athlete, A4, actually interrupted when they were talking about painkillers to bring up sleeping pills. He said that was a real problem in ice hockey and, quote, when you start taking sleeping pills, that is worse.
Worse than painkillers, in his view.
In his view, yeah. And many others agreed it was widespread. Another player, A7, just said flat out, I believe many use it.
So why? What's driving the use of sleeping pills? Is it just, the adrenaline after a game making it hard to sleep?
That's definitely a big part of it, yeah. Your body's still buzzing late at night. But it's more complicated than just that.
Okay.
They talked about tight match schedules, lots of travel, heavy training loads. And remember, this is a semi-pro league for many.
Ah, right. So they have other jobs, too.
Exactly. Athlete A25 pointed this out. Quite a few who have a job on the side just have more on their plate. They're burning the candle at both ends, maybe not getting enough natural rest. So sleeping pills become a perceived necessity.
That sounds like a situation ripe for, misuse. Did the athletes talk about that? Things getting out of hand?
They did, and this was pretty concerning. Several players mentioned misuse, overuse. Athlete A4 talked about players asking for sleeping pills for reasons other than sleep. Getting addicted, even mixing them with alcohol.
Oh, wow.
And athlete 18 was very specific, said he saw teammates using Zupaclone, that's a common sleeping pill, as a recreational drug to get high.
Just to get high. Not even for sleep.
Apparently so. And another player, A17, shared something really stark. We've had teammates who today struggle with heavier substances, suggesting it could be a gateway, potentially.
And could this become like a team culture thing, something passed down?
That's what athlete A21 suggested, yeah. He described it as almost a cultural thing within teams. Older players might use them, maybe because of work or family stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then younger players, maybe a 17-year-old kid on the team, sees this and thinks, oh, he takes it, it is cool. And they might start taking them without even needing it, which of course massively increases the risk of recreational use and dependency.
That really points to a need for more control, doesn't it? Over how these things are prescribed and accessed.
Absolutely. Tighter controls, better education for sure.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've talked about what they're taking and why. What about the relationship between the players and the people giving them these medications, particularly the team physicians? This study mentioned a really high level of trust there.
Yes, this was a really crucial finding, a profound trust. Almost, you could say, non-critical trust in the medical staff.
Meaning they just accepted what the doctor said?
Pretty much. Athlete A21, for instance, said he totally trusts his physician to weigh the risks and benefits. He even said he prefers not to know the side effects. Yeah. If the doc says it's fine, he trusts that. And several others echoed this. They felt if the team physician checked a medication against the JADA prohibited list, the World Anti-Doping Agency list,
then they didn't need to worry about it themselves.
Exactly. Athlete A18 put it very clearly. So then it was up to the physician to check it. So then we don't have to also check it once the physician has checked it.
I mean, you can understand that logic from the athlete's point of view. Like, you want to trust your medical team.
Completely understandable. You're relying on their expertise.
But, and this is a big but, isn't it?
Yeah.
That trust bumps right up against the anti-doping rules.
It creates a major conflict, a direct clash with WADA's core principle of strict liability.
Remind us what that means exactly.
Strict liability means it is the athlete's responsibility, and theirs alone, to make sure no prohibited substance gets into their body. Period. Doesn't matter how it got there.
So, the doctor gave it to me isn't a valid excuse.
Not under strict liability, no. And the study even referenced that high-profile case, the Norwegian Olympic skier who got banned. She used an ointment her team doctor approved, but it contained a banned substance. It proves that trusting your physician, while natural, isn't enough to avoid a sanction.
So that trust, well, maybe good for team cohesion, leaves players really vulnerable.
Precisely. Athlete A14 talked about this team mentality, saying, you trust that person a lot, then I would rather completely trust my own physician. It's understandable, but risky. If the support staff makes a mistake or isn't fully up to date, the athlete pays the price.
When you pull all this together, the painkiller use, the sleeping pills, the pressure, the trust, it really does sound like what some people call the medicalization of sport, doesn't it?
I think that's a very accurate way to put it.
Where problems caused by the sport, the injuries, the burnout, the sleep disruption, are increasingly just treated with medicine, instead of, say, more rest or changing how things are done.
That's exactly what these findings suggest, yeah. Pain from injuries, sleep problems from crazy schedules they're managed with pills, sometimes masking bigger issues, sometimes leading to misuse. And it puts athletes in this horrible bind.
A bind. How so?
Well, they have to choose, right? Do I risk my long-term health playing through this injury, maybe making it worse? Or do I sit out, rest, and risk losing my spot on the team because I'm not seen as willing to sacrifice myself?
That's a tough spot. So thinking about implications,
Mm-hmm.
what's the main takeaway here? For the players, the doctors, the coaches, even the leagues or federations?
Well, it really underlines how critical the role of medical staff and support personnel is. They have the power to protect athletes, but also unintentionally to put them at risk both health-wise and doping-wise.
So better education is key.
Definitely. Stronger anti-doping education is needed, especially hammering home that principle of strict liability. Athletes need to understand they are responsible, and they need to know the risks of even common medications.
And what about the system itself, the schedules?
That's the other big piece. The study strongly suggests that sports federations really need to look hard at match programs and travel schedules. Are these packed schedules creating an environment where inappropriate medication use becomes almost inevitable? Could changes allow for better recovery, less reliance on pills?
It's a systemic issue, not just individual choices.
It certainly seems that way.
This has been, well, a really eye-opening deep dive. It peels back the layers on why elite athletes, like these hockey players, might turn to medication. Shows the pressures, the culture, that deep trust. It's complex.
It really is. And if you think about that bigger picture, it leads to a pretty fundamental question, I think. Given that intense pressure, given that deep trust athletes place in their support staff,
Yeah.
how could we maybe rethink the whole system of athlete care?
How do we balance performance, health, and clean sport?
Exactly. How do we better support the athletes holistically? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What stands out to you when you hear all this?
It definitely makes you think. The next time you hear about an athlete's struggle, or maybe even a doping case, perhaps you'll think about these hidden layers, the health issues, the cultural pressures, and where that personal responsibility really lies.